Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Surviving Out of Spite. My name is Samantha Sauer and I'm your host. Today we have a returning guest to the podcast, and I'm really excited to finish the conversation that we started. Madi Cheever is back with us to talk all things nutrition, gastroparesis, a little bit of T1D, and everything else in between. Today we had more of a focus on the relationship with food and what that trial and error actually feels like. Not so much on your stomach, but how that can take a toll mentally. And Maddie shares some tips and tricks on what she would suggest to kind of go through that. And I talk a little bit about my experience as well. So we really hope you enjoy this episode and take a little bit more out of it, because Maddie, as she was in the first episode and is a wealth of knowledge, and we're really glad to have her here. So enjoy.
I'll just say, welcome back, Maddie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited. I know this is round two. If y'all listened to round one and you're here again, you're stuck with us. Like, this is happening. Also, this is kind of actually round three because you were on my podcast.
Yeah, actually, if we really want to do that, it's round four because you were at the conference. So now we just can't get rid of each other is what it comes down
Yeah, we
to.
can't get rid of each other, and our audiences can't get rid of us. It's, I love it though because you are a total vibe.
Right back at ya.
And
If
we have
only
fun.
people heard like the actual other conversations that go on, they're,
If
crazy.
air quotes, if only you were recording when I made that one face.
Oops.
Whoops, if you didn't see it, you're very lucky. For Sam, I'm so sorry.
Well, I will say that our podcast that you and I did, was one of our highest consumed content on like all our platforms. So I was looking the other day and I'm like, the things just started, like the numbers just started ticking and ticking and ticking. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then I looked this morning and I was like, wait, what? I'm like, oh, well, I need to have Maddie on more often because we're just going to fly off and do like big things now because, we're talking to the queen over here.
Thank you. I'm so glad that so many people hopefully benefited. I think that's an awesome. I mean, I think collaboration is key in this
Yeah.
space. And so to be able to be so helpful for so many people, that's an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, every time we talk, I'm always like, oh, I learned so much. I always do. But
I know we're friends at this point. We're friends.
Yes.
Like, I got you too.
Well, it's funny because thinking about where I was before we met and before we even had any sort of conversation, I'm like, I felt like I had a handle on some things. But now, with everything, and I think it's your approach to the conversation. And I know I've said that before, and we touched on it a little bit in the other episode, where it's like the way that you approach something, that you're open and someone can come to you like it's a safe space. A lot of people with gastroparesis, even like myself with type 1 diabetes as well, when you go into an office with somebody that you don't know and you're like, I have all these things, they're kind of weird, right? I have this weird relationship with food, whether it's diabetes, gastroparesis, or if you're like lucky like me, you get both, and you want to talk to somebody about that. It's like, if you're afraid to eat, it's very scary to tell somebody that, and I've had those situations where I've talked to you about it where I'm like, I want nothing. Like, nothing sounds good. Nothing looks good. I cannot make myself eat anything. That food, like, it just can't do anything. If I told that to just anybody, they might be like, you have another problem and we need to talk about that. But you never approached it like that. You're like, okay, let's talk about it. And I think, not just in my biased opinion, that should be the attitude that most providers have. But
Absolutely. And thank you. That's such a nice compliment. And it's really validating to hear because that's such a priority for me when I work with clients or when I talk to anyone really, especially when I go into education mode. I feel like my friends giggle. Have you ever had the thing where your friends don't know work you and then all of a sudden, hi, my name's Maddie. How can I help you? Like the customer service voice.
Yes.
I do have my customer service diabetes education voice, I think. But it is really authentically me, and that's the cool part. I am who 14-year-old Maddie needed. That's it.
Yeah.
I try to do for everyone else what she needed, and it heals me too. So to have those open, collaborative conversations, that is so essential, so important. And without that, I really don't think that we can get as far, right? With that, it's game changing because you're a professional. I had a post go viral about this, which I know we talked about, but it was a statement that I don't believe to be true verbally, like directly, but it was meant to paint a picture of the fact that your provider should not be disqualifying the experiences that you have gone through. They should not be invalidating those, but they do also have some professional expertise they can add. Some providers were more aligned with than others, so respectfully find your people, right? That's a thing in the medical world as well.
Yes.
But yeah, that's, I think, actually, sorry, I'll say one other thing on this. I feel like I'm circling already. We started out whoops, with so much fun, but I think that when it comes to how we approach conversations, I'm sure everyone's parents or guardians told them this. Like, it's a reflection of them. It's not about you, blah, blah, blah. What they say is just, how they're feeling internally. They're projecting, blah, blah, blah. I used to be like, okay, whatever, mom. And I mean, to be clear, Julie has wisdom. She is awesome, okay?
And the
So,
good hair. And the good
yeah,
hair.
she has the best hair. My mom and my dad are the cooler than I'll ever be. They are the most amazing human beings. But she taught me some of those lessons. And as I continue to age, unfortunately, I continue to understand those much more thoroughly. And I think that kind of loops back in. I know we talked about this last time, but that self-advocacy, I think we always talk about this, to be honest, but
It's important.
self-advocacy, it's essential, right?
Yeah.
And so my belief, and maybe this comes from a bold sense of confidence, I recognize that I have a level of confidence in this space, but if someone doesn't speak to me in a way I appreciate, or if someone doesn't collaborate with me in a way I prefer, or if someone tries to put me down in my perspective or something like that, I just have this bold sense of confidence where I'm like, it's not me, it's them. And
Yeah.
sometimes I do need to sit down and take a moment and say, okay, Maddie, do you need to call yourself out? Because heck yeah, that happened a lot of the
Yeah.
time. I have friends to do that with me, right? I was just talking, I had such a long conversation yesterday, which is so needed. But when it comes to stuff like that, if you are sitting there and you're thinking, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't do that, maybe this, maybe that, maybe I'm wrong, maybe da, da, da. I encourage you to ask yourself one extra time, why or where is this coming from? Is there any chance it could actually be about them and not you? Because the answer, unfortunately, is maybe, even with our healthcare providers. Maybe.
Yeah. It's hard. And I know, like, we talked about it last time and we've talked about it personally, thinking about all of the providers that you've gone through until you find somebody that like you kind of work with and that works for you. And I know for some of my providers with whichever ailment I feel like, talking about for myself, but like I might be above what they normally could handle, right? But it's like if they're willing to work with me and I'm willing to work with them, right? That provider patient relationship is still very helpful. It's valid. It does something for you because of the like human to human connection. And I know like trying to find things in the very beginning, I was going back way back in like my own archives of like my health stuff of like, what was the first thing that like somebody told me to eat, right? Or not to eat. And I'm like, I feel like I got nothing. Like way back when it was like, eat soft foods, and as silly as it sounds, it's like what constitutes a soft food? As much as for you and me, we're like, okay, that means like mashed potatoes, you've got like maybe super cooked down like noodles or rice, depending on your tolerance level. Like we can sit here and think of a bunch of different examples, but somebody might not actually like really know what constitutes what or where does something fall. And I think that there's so much lack of education in that nutritional space for a disease state that surrounds like all of this need for nutritional education. And it's mind-boggling to go, it's like, well, just don't eat fruits and vegetables, or like watch your fiber. Well, what is fiber?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I know what fiber is, you know what fiber is, but how can you just expect somebody who just got this diagnosis dumped on them, their entire life is changing? Maybe they've never heard of a macro before. They don't know how to count them. They don't know what micros are. They don't know anything. How do you expect that person to go home and be able to take care of themselves? And then when they come back and they're either worse or no better, it's like, well, what did you not follow my directions? What were your directions? So like in that initial phase, in that beginning, but like how would you approach somebody in the what can I even eat phase. You know, like in that beginning to say, when you're maybe still testing the waters a little bit, you know, where might you suggest somebody starts? And I don't want to say at the dummy level because I feel like that sounds offensive, but really at that bare minimum level of somebody who has little to no nutritional education and they have this disease that is impacting them nutritionally. So where might you suggest they start?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And my first answer is a non-answer. It depends. But what it depends on is absolutely what you already mentioned. So tolerance is really important. If someone is not aware of their tolerance, then a great thing to do is to go for the safety net, see how we're feeling as a baseline there, and then work our way up. So what I mean by that is if it's an elimination diet, if it's FODMAP, if it's gastroparesis, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have these foods that generally are going to be safe. Let's say liquids. Generally
Yeah.
speaking, would you say liquids are probably pretty okay if
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of inflamed or confused about what digestion is doing? Yeah, right? So, okay, let's do liquids for a few days, see how that goes. Oh, okay, are we feeling all right? All right, cool. Let's progress to some of those soft foods, just like we mentioned. Maybe like
Yeah.
yogurt as an example. Let's just add yogurt that day and see how it goes. Okay, assuming you don't have a dairy intolerance or something like that. And if you do, then go for a dairy free option. But add in that one thing, see how it goes. Okay, maybe a day or two later, add in another thing, see how
Mm-hmm.
that goes. This is the worst part about this process, the best and worst part about this process. I
Hmm.
do this type of whether it's for that build up for gastroparesis, whether it is an elimination diet, whether it's my GI issues, girlies, hello, with FODMAP issues or anything else, working our way up, it takes patience. And that is the worst part, right? It takes a
Yeah.
few weeks. It can take months to get back to some type of a baseline, depending on where you're at. But if you can find that baseline, hold it right there for a little while, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, depending on what you need. And then start adding things in one at a time. You know how people are like, oh, I achieved, let's say achieved weight loss. Okay, well, what did you change? Oh, well, I started this medication. I started exercising. I changed my diet. I started sleeping different. I switched jobs. I also started these three other medications and dropped these three other medications. Well, what factor is it? I don't know. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's all of the above. Maybe it's 90% this one thing. I don't know. Right. So if
Yeah.
you can take it slowly and steadily, though, this is the worst part. It's patience. But the best part is that you have answers. So if you're willing to put in a little extra time and effort up front, that goes for gastroparesis, diabetes, any other food questions, comments, concerns, allergies, intolerances. I'll say intolerances. Allergies, eliminate that, please. But
Yeah.
other than that, working our way up, that's how we're going to find what actually creates success in our bodies. And then you get to keep it, right? So maybe here's a more personal example. Your girl cannot tolerate too much tomato or onion and garlic.
I was like, I knew it was tomatoes.
I know, I know. I'm a little GI sensitive. Here's the thing though. I love tomatoes. Tomatoes don't love me though. So here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. I had to find my base and kind of heal my gut a little bit. And now I have a slightly higher tolerance for tomatoes than I did. But here's the thing. I know that if I overdo it, guess who's
Ow.
on the toilet the next morning? Uh-huh, exactly. It's just like, everyone who's like, oh, I'm just going to eat the cheese. I'm going to deal with it, right? For my dairy to intolerant folks. Same. So find your base, work your way up, be slow, be intentional. But if you do that, it's going to be a rough process. It's going to be a slow, annoying, painful process potentially, or some other negative descriptor. But if you do that, you're going to find more freedom on the other end than you would have. Because what's the other option, right? You jump back
Yeah.
in to the deep end, you're trying to figure it out, and then what? You have to go back and do an elimination all over again because your body cannot hang. Okay,
Yeah.
give yourself kindness, give your body kindness. Eventually, I think that's one of the best things that we can do for ourselves if we're unsure. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily describe certain specific foods, but that's where my non-answer comes in, is it depends. So like I said with
Yeah.
the yogurt example, yogurt's a great example of a soft food. Unless you're like the most dairy intolerant person in the world, then okay, let's talk about a dairy alternative type yogurt. It doesn't have to be that. So using your health information to your advantage, you can start to use this framework that we've talked about and
Mm-hmm.
create success for yourself no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's basically been my approach since the beginning, even before, and it was almost like it just happened, right? Where it was like I was just telling Adam a couple days ago about a meal that I remembered like in the beginning of the diagnoses, where I was like, before I actually was told, hey, like this is gastroparesis, I was like, I'm not really sure what's going to make me throw up today, or what's going to bother my stomach, or what's going to cause like this insane nausea. It was just kind of like, well, that worked yesterday, so I think I'll try that, or maybe like that looks like it would be okay. I'm not really sure. And it really was that whole thing, piece to piece to piece of like, that didn't work, so cross that out and then kind of go back to it. And it's the same way for me. Like, I'm gluten free, I would say like 95%. I don't eat a lot of gluten. I don't have celiac disease, but it does cause inflammation for me. It does upset my stomach more than gluten-free stuff does. But I've eaten a couple things here and there that have gluten that when I do get glutens now, it's not as bad because I have a slight more tolerance to it. And I did that on purpose, as I was like, couple moments where I'm just going to take the pain that looks really, really good. I don't want to say that helps because I'm not suggesting anybody do that behavior, but over time and doing that in a calculated way, I did gain something out of that was positive, of like a little bit of tolerance. So now I'm like, if I want to try a little bit of that, I'm okay. Or a little bit of this here, I'm okay. And for me, it's also ingredient dependent, because like this type of fully gluten bread is going to murder my insides, and this fully gluten bread might be okay. It's just one of those things that it's ingredient based. So the more you get into that, the more you realize there's other things to eliminate than just food groups. It could be something like just garlic, a seasoning, could be salt, could be pepper, it could be anything. And then you have to start doing that, and I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but that's kind of where it goes. Thinking back for me too, with all of that, I got to a point at my sickest. I know this was quite about 10 years ago now, which is mind blowing actually, where I couldn't eat anything. Like, I could not keep like anything down, and I was on the ice cream diet because that just could go through you, or it just easily kind of came back up if it made me sick. It didn't get stuck anywhere. And it took me a long time to feel safe trying new foods again. And after my G-POM, and it was like, okay, it's time to start testing foods, it was really scary to go back to say, all right, I'll try that. Even if you're like, this is the safest thing I could possibly try, it was still terrifying. And even with me with diabetes, that's how I felt around like things like pizza, heavier carb things, which I now have no fear around in diabetes world because of Madi. But my stomach is still up in the air because he just gets angry at everybody. But, I know that mental work took a lot. It was a lot of fear to have to work through. So besides me talking about it to you, what might you suggest, or have you experienced somebody even personally or like with a person that you worked with to say, this is maybe where I would start to acknowledge that fear? Obviously is the first I'll say smart thing to do, but really, how would you maybe help somebody through that moment? Because given just type 1 diabetes, I can only imagine like there are fear foods for diabetics just as much as there are for people with gastroparesis, let alone dual diagnoses there.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's so many layers to unpack here, so I'll do my best. But I think the first thing is to just validate that it's okay. It's okay if you feel judgment. By the way, if someone's like, "Oh, be better," "Oh, just stop fearing this food." Okay, respectfully,
Helpful.
whoever this person, yeah, thanks, whatever, right? Because if we have that fear's coming from somewhere, and if we can figure out where, that could help. So,
Yeah.
I work in T1D, type 1 diabetes all the time. And so I have people that say, hey, I'm scared of eating this one specific food. I'm like, okay, well, why? Is it, do you have an allergy? Do you have an intolerance? Did someone say something mean to you and now you just get like that big hit of social anxiety? Or did you go super low and end up in the hospital one day
Mm-hmm.
from one food where it shouldn't have happened, but it did? Sometimes those things happen. And so I say, okay, maybe a good example. I was working with a gal last week who is terrified of sweet potato. And if you giggle at all, if you hear me saying that, I want you to know how legitimate that can be, right? It's not that we fear sweet potato the same way we fear like a spider or something like that, but it's the context of what it could do to the blood sugar that really causes that fear. So it's not fear of sweet potato, it's fear of the consequences of sweet potato,
Mm-hmm.
potential consequences. So what we have done, and this is a huge win that I'm very proud of her for, but what we have done is we have started, I'm like, okay, well, what is it about the sweet potato? They're like, that's so high carb. I'm so scared of being high, having a high blood sugar. I can't do it. And I was like, okay, I validate that. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out. I want you to have 5 carbs worth of sweet potato. She was like, what? Like 5 carbs. I mean, I know you'll eat, I know this person, she'll eat half a banana, she'll eat half a sandwich, she'll eat, a half a cup of pasta or rice or something. Like, I know that you have comfort with what, 10 to
Other
20.
carbs.
Yeah. This carb is no different. It's a carb. I mean, it is different when you think about it scientifically, but we can still approach it the same way we approach those other carbs. So
Mm-hmm.
what we did is I was like, I don't want you to have more than 5 grams. So she's like, well, I could have at least 10, 15. I was like, I mean, if you want to, but I'm asking you to have 5. Well, she ended up having 15. Okay, that's cool. And her carb ratio, I think, is like 1 to, we just changed it. I think it's 1 to 12 now. And
Mm-hmm.
so for anyone who's not aware, we need a unit of insulin per each 12 carbs. So if we have 12 carbs, it's 1 unit, 24 carbs, 2 units, 36 carbs, 3 units, and so on. This person's on an insulin pump, so they can have specific units as well. So I said, okay, well, you had 15 carbs worth of sweet potato. That's a unit approximation. What if we had 20 carbs? That's not even 2 whole units worth of insulin still. We have specific decimals. If they were on manual injections, we might need to round up, but they don't have to in this case. So I was like, so you're still in the 1 unit range. Do you think you could manage that? And she was like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, 20. So okay, 20. So the next week we had 20. And actually she had 22. Very proud of her. So she had 22 carbs worth of sweet potato. We measured it specifically. We figured it out. We had a pre-bolus. We did all the things. Her blood sugar was a chef's kiss. It was phenomenal. And then, anyways, this process over the course of several weeks turned into, I guess it was like 2 months, but by the end of that 2 months, friends eating 45 carbs of sweet potato in one setting with perfect blood
Damn.
sugar. End of
Damn.
story. So when it comes to those fears, one, they're valid. Two, if we can figure out what they're coming from and why, I think that makes a huge
Yeah.
difference. Did a provider tell you you can't eat it? Did someone say that you shouldn't? Did someone judge you for it? Did you have a bad experience? Whatever it may be, that's valid. And I'm sorry that
Yeah.
that happened, but you have the power to do something about it. Now, if someone told you you can't eat it, I encourage you to do a double take, because I think, like with type 1 diabetes, you can eat anything, but you need some good blood sugar management. If they're telling you you can't eat it because you will go into anaphylactic shock, again, that's different. But be mindful, be intentional, and I think going so slow that it's almost like, what? If you haven't already read it, which, Sarah, I feel like we talked about this. I don't know if we did, but I just refinished Atomic Habits. It's like my 3rd time reading it. If you
Might be
haven't,
able to see it on my shelf somewhere. I think it's
oh my
like right
gosh, I
there,
know.
actually.
I love it. I bought the physical book too because I wanted it on my shelf upstairs. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't read it, that's a game changer. And I took a lot of those lessons and I directly apply them to my clients with stuff like this. For example, it says if you need to be working out or going to the gym, set the goal of driving to the gym and then
Yeah.
walking into the front desk and then getting on to the treadmill and leaving. You're not even using the treadmill. You're getting on it, getting off it. And this thing happens where, one, we feel like we've accomplished something. Two, it's almost too easy not to. And three, a lot of the times what happens is, oh, I'm here anyways. I'll just insert whatever it
Do
is.
it.
And
Yeah.
that happens a lot of the time too with food things. Not always. There's a lot of emotion there. And the logic, no matter how much logic and education we have, sometimes you're still going to have the emotion. And a lot of people feel guilty for that. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay, right? Like, no matter how smart, knowledgeable, logical everything is, like, oh yeah, we can do this, this, and this. We know this won't happen. Emotion still takes over sometimes. That's okay. That doesn't
Yeah.
make you any lesser. That doesn't make you dumb. That doesn't do anything negative. What that does tell you though is where you can start. Where you
Mm-hmm.
can start. If you use data, use your knowledge to your advantage, you know these things about yourself. If you're comfortable with them, cool. Heck yeah, you got it. If you're not comfortable with them, it may not feel cool, but you get to learn. And that's
Yeah.
really freaking cool when you think about it.
It's so funny to think back again where I was in the beginning and having these conversations now. Like, hindsight's 2020, right? Like, we know that, the things that you learn now, the things that you practice now, you're like, damn, I really wish I had done that however many years ago, or when I was in this headspace. And it's like, there are still some foods that I will not touch. You couldn't pay me enough, like, you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to touch certain foods because I know that they are going to hurt me. And it's not like that to me, like, it's not worth it. But there are some foods that over time I was like, I want to try that again. I want to make that work. Like, I want to do that. And talking about sweet potatoes, I love pizza. I've talked about pizza all the time. I've talked about pizza with you. We found ways to, make things work. And for me, the best way for me to consume one of my favorite foods is to make it myself. But that not everybody has that option, right? One of the first tries of pizza was sweet potato crust. So it's just funny talking about sweet potato that I shredded it up and made it into a small patty type thing and crisped it up and put a little bit of sauce and a little cheese on it. And that was the first bite of something pizza in a long time, and that for me, it was part scary because you don't know how that's going to affect your stomach, but also there's foods now I want a Krispy Kreme donut. Worse than bad.
All the time.
Worse than bad. That is not good for my pancreas. It is not good for my stomach. I'm I will not touch that food. Or even just a terrible glazed donut from Dunkin'. Not even top tier donut, just a glazed donut from Dunkin' Donuts. So badly do I want that. But for me, actually, what keeps me from trying food like that is the memory of what that food tastes like. I don't want that tarnished by either the taste disappointing me or the fact that if it does indeed make me sick, I will assume that it will because it has in the past, it will ruin that memory. So I'm as much as I want this food, as much as I want to try this, for me, the memory holding on to that is actually worth more than giving it a chance to try it, which that doesn't work. That's not something for everybody. Somebody might be Sam, you're insane, or just try it anyway, deal with the pain, or that's just dumb. That's okay. But for me, it's it's just something to almost hold on to, that food memory. There's some things that I haven't tried again because I'm I just can't do it. But I also know that my experience around food and what I've been able to eat and not eat is very different than somebody else's because I've gotten lucky with medication, and as you know, I walk all the time, which helps my digestion, and surgeries. So I'm in a better place than I was even 10 years ago when I literally, again, I couldn't eat anything. There was nothing you could do for me. There was nothing at that point that I could eat or change. Nothing was being tolerated. And it's, for me, I think the biggest thing that healed my relationship with food was learning how to cook it, learning how to make things differently, and feeding the people around me helped me stop being so damn bitter all the time because I'm the thing that I got to do, I still got to touch the food, smell the food. I started to understand how food cooked and how it would taste by what it looked like, what it smelled like, what the texture was, and all of these things that I got to heal some of myself with food in that way. And again, that might not work for everybody, but that was probably one of the coolest things for me to really dive into that part of myself. And now I just have control issues in the kitchen and I don't want anyone cooking for me because I know how I like it. So my husband's do you want me to cook dinner? I'm no, that's okay. It has nothing to do with you. It's just me.
Yeah, I know, right? The plague of the chefs or whatever it is. They make great food and then they have to make their own great food if they still want that quality. It's tough. And, I think you touched on several really important things. So maybe some things I'll reiterate are number one, right? If someone's in that position where they're literally nothing else in this world matters but a Krispy Kreme donut. If you're not willing to do it, if you're not willing to experience it, don't. That's okay. But if you're that is all I want, get you a donut hole. Get you one, okay?
Yeah.
One. And they might even give it to you for free if you explain. I don't know. Krispy Kreme, if you hear this, help a sister out. But Yeah, so those kinds of things, right? If that's the experience you want, it doesn't have to be a full donut. It can be a donut bite.
Mm-hmm.
And something funny enough that you were really giving us some descriptors of the senses, right? We have more
Mm-hmm.
senses than taste. We have our
Yeah.
sight, our smell, touch, hearing. There's a lot of things that goes on. And with this donut idea, this donut hole versus donut or no donut, that's okay too. But I talk about this a lot for cravings, right? I talk about the science of cravings, hunger cues, hormones, all that good jazz. But I use the Hershey Kiss example. And I think I want to talk about it right now if you're okay with this. Slight
Yeah,
segue,
go for it.
really helpful in this world. Think about this Hershey Kiss. Now, I learned this when I went to a professional conference a few years ago. I would like to apologize in advance if you want a piece of chocolate really bad after this, but use what we learn, okay? So the question I will ask oftentimes is, and maybe I'll ask this. I just want everyone to contemplate: how many baby carrots would you have to eat to not crave a little taste of chocolate? Right? So everyone can contemplate. Some people do have an answer. Most
Mm-hmm.
people say, I mean, is this a trick question? Like, that's not chocolate. I want the
Yeah.
chocolate. Exactly. We want the chocolate, right? So sometimes what we do is, oh, I'll eat this instead. Oh, I'll eat that instead. And especially when that tolerance in your GI system is really upset, I think this is a good lesson to be mindful of. If you can't have too much of it, can you have a little bit and really enjoy it? It's a mindfulness example that we're about to go through, okay? So this little Hershey Kiss. We're talking about a Hershey Kiss because this is the example we used, and I think it's a great one. So imagine you have a Hershey Kiss. I think we did like a dark chocolate that day. I think it's like a navy blue foil, but everyone for the most part knows Hershey, right? Like it's got
Mm-hmm.
that beautiful foil wrapping. It's always in that same little cute like droplet shape thing. How do they not
Yep.
break more often? I don't know. They've got the little paper sticking out of it. My sister-in-law was the marketer at Hershey. I know she told me that the paper has a name. I cannot remember. I always call it an aglet in my head, which I know is so wrong, but it's like the Hershey Kiss aglet. So, anyways, also Hershey Kiss. If you or Hershey, if you hear this, I'm sorry for the disrespect of not knowing the paper name. But, anyways, right. So we all know what we're experiencing, right? Like imagine that in your brain, if you can for a second. Think about how shiny it is, and the foil's kind of like bent over itself, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
feel it. You can touch it. You can also smell it. Like it's not even out of the wrapper, but like you can still technically smell it. Right. So we're talking about this thing. We haven't even unwrapped it in our imagination, right? So now let's imagine we do that, okay? Let's pull that wrapper apart, the paper comes out, and then that foil. Well, first of all, I don't know about anyone who like, I mean, if you are able to just leave the foil alone, your self-control is unmatched. I have to ball it up. I have to ball it up. There's no other option, right? Like I
No, there's
have to
not.
do it. That's what I have to do. So I have to ball it up. But even that itself, like you can hear the foil crinkling a little bit. Now you can smell the chocolate a little more. It's out of the wrapper, right? All of these
Mm-hmm.
things are happening. And now here's the chocolate. Now, if you've had a Hershey Kiss, you look at it visually and you know it's like shiny but also matte. It's like a perfect balance and it looks like
Mm-hmm.
it could be melty, but it also probably isn't. And then all of a sudden, now you smell it. You smell it a little more because the foil is not a barrier anymore. You look at it, you've already heard it, you're seeing it. You can kind of feel it too. I mean, don't let it melt. You want to enjoy this thing, right? But you can see it and you can appreciate it. Okay, now you eat it. Put it on your tongue. What are you sensing? Have you ever been to a tasting experience for anything? Literally anything. A wine tasting, a whiskey tasting, a cheese and meat tasting. I know these may not all be appropriate examples based on what your GI system's doing. Have you ever been like, you should get to 2% note of oak and blah blah blah. Yeah, that thing. Do it with the chocolate. The chocolate's in our mouth right now. We're tasting it. What do you taste? What do you experience? What's the sweetness? Is there any bitterness going on? Anything. Try to find those things. Find them.
Yeah.
We talked about this Hershey Kiss for so long. This is as long as it could take you to eat one. And again, I apologize if you really want to like chocolate after this, but
I do.
hopefully,
Thank you.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm good at making people want chocolate. That's dietitian approved. But once we've had that experience, you may find, because I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting in front of a TV with some popcorn or some snackies, I can house things if I'm not being mindful. And again, maybe not the best examples. Popcorn's great for me with type 1 diabetes because of the carbs, but
Mm-hmm.
Please do not eat anything that you cannot tolerate, right? But if you're having those things, for me, one Hershey kiss is an experience when I make it an experience. One bite of that cookie, one of those little things, even if it's, a little something, that donut hole could be the game changer that makes you feel like you're living your life to the fullest, but you're not hurting your system so much that it's not worth it, right? Like, we don't
Yeah.
need a dozen donuts. We may not even need one donut, but a donut hole, maybe, maybe not. Now, there's a lot of different layers of complexity here, but I encourage you to just think about, okay, like, what is it that you want? Why? How could you make that happen for yourself? What's the balance? What's the mindfulness? Again, I used a donut hole in a cookie example or a chocolate example. I know, Sam, I know that after me talking about this, I don't think you're incredibly inspired to go get that donut. Why? Because
No.
you still have those consequences in mind. I know that. That's okay. And if any of you think that way too, I encourage you to not have the donut if you don't want the donut and if the donut's not going to serve you. But if it serves you more than it hurts you, hopefully it doesn't hurt you at all. But if it serves you well, go for it. If it hurts you more than it's worth, be honest with yourself. It's hard. Honesty is hard. But see what
Yeah.
you can or figure
I
out, I
think
guess.
I think a lot of that too is like in that time frame of when you're trying to figure things out and you're doing different things and you're just going through that entire situation. You're like, did this hurt me? It's like you kind of, and I've said this in different aspects where it's like life kind of hits me over the head like, Sam, you dumb dumb, like that hurt you last time, it's probably going to hurt you again. So I have to learn and go through that like, okay, and that's why there are a list of foods that I will not try anymore, but that my list of foods isn't going to match somebody else's. And I think like going through that and to make, and again, you did make that chocolate quite an experience. But like when you do that, I think when you have limitations, like again, if you look at a Hershey Kiss, if you get one and that's all you can have, make the most of it. If it's a bite and that's all you can have without hurting yourself, you want to, I'll say, be able to appreciate that to the best of your ability, because my relationship with food now is pretty good. I don't really have any food issues. They kind of pop up here and there depending on what's going on, but overall, I don't hate food the way that I used to. I did go through that period of my life, and we all have. Anybody with stomach issues, especially those of us with gastroparesis, like you have to go through and say like, I don't get a full meal anymore. I only get this one. And I think trying to really just learn about food and learn what food does in the body, that kind of helped me heal myself around that, to where it wasn't so much about the food anymore. The social events, the things like that that are generally always about food. Everyone's always trying to offer you food. Oh, just a taste. It's like, no, thank you. I don't want it. Thank you very much. And you have to over and over again explain, no, I'm not eating. Thank you. I'm not hungry. And you're sitting there going like this, like, how many times do I need to tell you that I can't do this? It's frustrating. It's hard. There's so many different pieces. And we've been able to touch on all of the things. Like when you talk to a dietitian, like you expect the general thing. I think everybody does, like, give me a meal plan, tell me what to eat, and I'm on my way, right? But all the nuances that we've talked about in the other episode and in this one is all of the things that like are being packed in around that relationship with food. And as much as I would love for you to say like, okay, everybody eat this like gastroparesis diet and do this and that would be great, and eat this protein to carb to fat ratio and everything like that, like that might be helpful educationally for some people to say like, limit your fat intake and limit your fiber intake. If you don't know what foods are in fiber, like, or what, yeah, you know what I was trying to say there, how much fiber is in certain foods, like here's how you find that information and, go through that determination yourself. And I think about dietary needs and restrictions so differently because I look at them that way. Look at it as like, is this food going to serve me mentally or physically? Is it going to hurt me mentally or physically? Am I pushing this because I think I have to? Or am I pushing this because I know that I need to? Like on days that I don't feel that well, I'm not going to try to eat my everyday foods. I stopped trying to do that because I'm like, no, I should be able to tolerate this. No, like, no. We're going to have bone broth today. We're going to have protein shakes today. We're going to just have some toast today. That's all we're going to do. And that's okay, and not being able to have a full plate, not being able to do everything, like doing what you can is enough. And I think that that's something that you understand, that a lot of other people understand, but when doing what you can doesn't get you to where someone thinks you should be, it's like, well, what are you doing wrong? And I think that kind of eats back at a lot of people, myself included, to where you're like, what am I doing wrong? Because you're like, I should be able to eat more. I should be able to do this. And you can't. And you're like, so what am I doing wrong? It's not you.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, and I will say, I love everything that you just said. I had so many thoughts, but a big one that stood out to me is people either love or hate working with me. I respect it. Everyone has their individual preferences, right? But the reason why people love working with me is because it's individualized. We talk about the dynamics of food. We talk about these situations. We talk about the complexities. It's a conversation, and I expect you to be involved. That's why people love working with me. Some people hate working with me too, because it's not, if it were simple, it would be simple. It's not. It's so complex. It's overwhelming. It's confusing. It's frustrating. And for the folks who are like, hey, give me a meal plan and walk out, first of all, respect. If that's something you want, go see if you can find it. Absolutely. But just keep in mind, okay, well, if I give you a meal plan, just so you know, my favorite cuisine is in the world of Asia. So like Japanese cuisine is something I grew up with, for example. I eat a lot of Japanese cuisine. So if I hit you with a tamago omelet in the morning with some rice and some seaweed, and you're like, this sounds awful, well, guess what? That's my meals that I eat, okay? So this meal plan, although the macros may be fan-freaking-tastic and the ingredients might be wonderful, if you're like, Maddie, just...
Ew.
I don't even know what you said, but eggs gross me out. Okay, well, the meal plan goes out the window, right? So I encourage you to think through some of those things too. It's totally possible to do it on your own. I really believe that it is. You do not have to go through a decade of learning, understanding, education, specialty, blah, 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 like myself. You do not have to do that. But sometimes that extra level of support can be pretty helpful. And if you feel overwhelmed, I just want to validate that too. It's okay if you need help. Like, you not being able to do it on your own or feeling like you can't do it on your own, that doesn't mean you failed. If anything, I think that that's worth celebrating and being proud
100%.
of. Yeah, because you can articulate yourself, speak for yourself, know what you need, go get it. And when you find those things, I think, find the resources, find the support. If something's not clicking, ask yourself why until you get to the bottom of it, or what, how, when, who, where, whatever you have to ask. But keep asking yourself questions. Be curious, be involved, be aware, be mindful, write things down. It'll get you so far.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think like even just thinking back in like food journals and things that I had tried and didn't tolerate, and going back and trying to try that food again, I'm like, I really don't want to do this. And you know what? You don't also have to. And I think that that's something that is difficult for people too, because it's like you think you should be doing something, or you couldn't tolerate it before. Like, you don't have to try it now. You don't have to eat all those things now. And there's so many people who either can't eat anything, or they're like me, kind of in the middle, where you can kind of go either way, or people with just a very minor modified diet can basically function like a normal human being. But we know that that can change at any time. What you eat, how you eat it, the time of day you eat it. If an ingredient changes, like, do not change my milk brand up on me, because then I can't drink milk anymore. You know, it's like you stick with what works. And I think that just, again, having that support, having somebody say like, what's your favorite food? You tell them your favorite food. Okay, well, let's see if we can find a way to make that or something like that work for you. Instead of just being like, well, why did you eat that? Don't eat that. Don't eat fruits and vegetables. Well, what am I supposed to eat? I don't know. Just see what you don't throw up later. That's not helpful to anyone. And the bluntness of some of that, or the lack of nutritional education in GI areas, is just mind-boggling. And the more I've had exposure myself personally, or conversations with you or other dietitians, I'm just like, why is no one talking? Like, nobody's treating this. No one's having these conversations. These poor doctors don't even have this education. Why isn't this more? So I think it's just really important to keep talking about that, and that the relationship with food, like, you're not broken. Like, your stomach might be, but you are not broken. Like, your fear around food, like, we get that. And if, you know, that's another conversation to have, like, we can have that conversation around it, because it's completely normal for our subset of people, right, to have a fear around food, and having to learn to navigate that and not be afraid to say that, like, food scares me and I'm afraid to eat it. you know?
And when you can say those kinds of things, again, like pull the card, pull the diabetes card. Grandma's like trying to shove a pie down your throat and you're really uncomfortable with it. Grandma, thank you. For medical reasons, I am not going to eat this today. Okay, right? They may not always understand, but you've done what you can on your part. Their emotions are their own. And so articulate yourself. And honestly, find you a healthcare provider who is also a theater kid. We're looking for a yes and, okay? So yes and, whatever you can find. We're not looking for no, don't, shouldn't, can't, blah, blah, blah. Look for the yeses. Find those lights that take you through. Don't look for the blocks, this, that, no, no. Find the path. Find the path.
Yeah.
Find the people that help you on that path. And this is awesome. You are incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for such a fantastic conversation today. I think you're a wonderful advocate in this space, the empowerment.
Thank you. So are you. You know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Friend to friend, person to person, you know. We love Madi here.
I love being here, and if anyone needs anything, reach out. I'm around. You know, my information will be in the show notes, I'm sure. But it's been an honor. I hope everyone feels a little validated today. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.